coming into a really good all fours position, which means your hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, a square box position, your spine in its natural curves. And let's take shoulder shrugs. Forwards with the shoulders, slide the shoulders back. Forwards and back. Forwards and back. Make sure the fingers and thumbs are spread far apart, so you're supporting the weight through your wrists. And then let's let the rib cage drop down and lift back up. Drop down and lift back up. So warming up, but as always, warming up via the shoulders and that rib cage, just trying to loosen it, free it up a little bit. And then if you can, try and take the shoulders forwards, let the rib cage drop down, the shoulders go up, draw the shoulders back towards your hips, and then lift the rib cage up. Shoulders are forward, so they're going round in a circle. Thinking about this part of your shoulder, that round, short-sleeved part of your t-shirt. So I'm rolling my shoulders backwards. I'm allowing my rib cage to lift and lower in between. And then I'm going to change direction. So taking the shoulders back towards the hips, taking them up towards my ears, and then forwards, up and over as the rib cage lifts up, allowing the rib cage to drop down. So we're taking a big up and over shrug, and this is actually really quite hard work. Hard work on the wrists, just everything. So let's finish there with those shoulder circles. Let's take a spine circle, circling around on a horizontal plane. So my torso is pretty much staying in the same position. I'm taking my hips and my shoulders, I'm taking my shoulders around my hands, I'm taking my hips around my knees, and I'm thinking about stressing the joints, if you like. So stressing the wrists, going right past the little finger, forwards past the fingertips, little finger on the other side, around, across the heels of your palms, in the hips. I'm thinking about the crease at the front of my hips. Just change direction. I'm allowing my hips to sort of roll over to the side and then come forward. So knees, hips, shins, wrists, shoulders, everything's just getting a little bit of mobilising. So that's your horizontal spine circles. Now let's take a vertical spine circle. So this we think about the rib cage more than anything. Shift the ribs out to the one side, lift the ribs up to the ceiling, shift the ribs out to the other side, allow the ribs to sort of swing down to the floor. And your arms and legs, arms especially, stay straight. Just a slight kink in the elbow. And then changing direction, ribs to the other side, drop down, ribs out and lift up. Your head just goes with you. So a really different movement for the whole spine compared to the last one. Brilliant. Let's just take the big toes together. Open up the knees nice and wide. Take the hips back on the heels. Stretch those arms forwards and wide if you can, at least as wide as your yoga mat. And now let's just sway from side to side, taking the ear towards the shoulder. So this sort of work I generally do towards the end of class, but today we're using it as our warm-up at the beginning of class. So make sure you're breathing nice and relaxed. Don't get too stressed. And then let's roll up through the spine, if you can, unravelling all the way up to bottom on your heels. And let's come back onto all fours. So what I'd like you to think about in a couple of different positions in today's class is this sense of lifting up out of the floor. So my hands are underneath my shoulders. So my shoulders are nice and forward. Quite often I see people back here. You don't want to be back here. You want to be over those hands so that you really are stressing those wrists. Imagine your hands are on ice And although your weight is where it is, it's fixed and your shoulders are over your hands, you want to be really lifting up out of the floor, trying to lift up out of the floor, because if you just collapse, you're going to let your weight of your shoulders and your arms and your upper body, you're going to fall through that ice. You want to be lifting up out of the floor. We're going to use that a couple more times. And what it does is it gets the head, especially, in the correct position, sliding the shoulder blades down, and it's that sense of being in a really good neutral position with your spine. From there, we're going to take one leg, draw one leg in, and think about the shapes you're making with your body. So draw the knee in and really round your back. Take the opposite hand to that knee and just sort of reach towards your shin and your ankle. Try and get the knee towards your forehead, but don't hang on to the leg. And then we're extending. So this was a really rounded shape. Now we're coming out into our tissue box. So fingertips and toes still touching the floor, straight arm and leg. The spine has gone back to that neutral box position, and then lift the arm and the leg to the height of the body. From here, draw that knee in, transform the shape, change the shape completely, really rounded, a little bit hard to balance. Extend and set everything back into that neutral position again, and lift, and again, 2 more. 4 all together on this one side. Try and lift the upper back up towards the ceiling, pull the tummy in really tight, fingertips and toes touch the floor, pause here before you lift. Notice when you lift that there's absolutely no change. This is my 4th one. The 4th one you're going to hold, touching the floor, fingertips and toes. Lift the arms and legs up, collective arms and legs, not all of them, and then hold it there. Circle your hand at your wrist, your foot at your ankle, the biggest circle you can, but without joining in with the leg or the arm, without overreaching. Change direction. Lifting up out of that supporting arm and hand. This is tough. And then touching the floor, coming back in, hands and knees. Let's just momentarily stretch back again. This time drop down onto your elbows, and then do some sea anemones with your hands. Especially the wrist, obviously the wrist that you are supporting you all the way through there will be a little bit tighter than the other one. Maybe while you're doing this, just have a little sway from side to side with those hips if you can. Increase the tolerance, get the blood flow, compress the joints, the knees, the hips, ankles. Do some sea anemones. Great, and then let's come back onto all 4s again. So the perfect position to start with. Other knee is coming in. Let's think about which one that was then. So we're drawing in, rounding the back, scooping in the tummy, really tucking under with the pelvis, reaching towards the ankle or the shin. Extend, now set the body. Watch this shoulder doesn't lift up. That arm that you're lifting up into the air, don't overreach with it. Draw in and round from that lifted position. Quite tough on the balance. Try not to pull away from it. Try and keep the shoulder over the hand. Pause here on the fingertips and toes touching the floor. Then lift. Notice that your tissue box hasn't changed. 2 more. Rounding in, lift, scoop that tummy, tuck that pelvis under. And extend and pause, and then lift. All good, strong work for the back. Last one here. Using my abdominals, I'm not hanging on to that leg, I'm using the muscles to get into that position. Pause here, then lift, set the arm and the leg parallel to the floor, and there we go. Again, circling all the way around, keeping the arm and the leg still, nice and straight. Change direction if you haven't already. Quite hard work on the balance, touching fingertips and toes to the floor, and come back into all 4s. And again, little rest back. Make some more sea anemones. Really get those fingers working for this one. Brilliant. We're going to go into some Garuda-style press-ups and a move that I've decided to call the diamond star. So from our all 4s, bringing the feet and the knees together this time. So pushing down, pushing your shins down into the floor, and as you do that, tuck your pelvis under. There's that lovely scoop. Think about that shape that we just made. Let your head just go in line with the rest of the curve of the rest of the spine. Take your hips back towards your heels, but only go halfway. And then as you bring your weight forwards, your shoulders forwards, it's like your spine sort of unravels into a really nice neutral, and then you're bending your elbows, tucking them into your ribs, bending the arms, and then straightening them. So that's the press up there. You don't need to go too low to start with. Tucking under, rounding the back. You might want to take a nice breath out there. Feel like your spine is coming up and over. Tuck those elbows in, down towards the floor. Let's do 2 more. Tuck the pelvis under, push the shins in, round the back, stretching back and moving forwards. Unravel the spine, try and get those ribs to connect with your elbows, or your elbows to connect with your ribs is more appropriate, I guess. Rounding the back, last one. And we're coming all the way forwards, unravelling as we go, tuck those elbows in. This time we're going to take the feet away from the camera. You're going to tuck your pelvis under again. You're stretching all the way back, so it's a really nice stretch down one side of your spine. Come up and over and get the shoulder over one hand. Lift the other knee and lift the arm and open up your chest all the way up to the ceiling. Like you're trying to touch the ceiling and you're lifting out of that hand that's on the floor. Then stretch the arm forwards towards the camera. Keep going, keep going. Try and touch the floor, but leave your shoulder where it was. Again, you're getting a lovely stretch. And then unravel. Shoulder, ribs, waist, hips. Keep the feet where they were, so you're still on that diagonal line. And then stretch the hips back and come into the centre. And again, push the shins down. When my legs are in the centre. Going back, unravelling through the centre. Tuck the elbows in for a press up. As you come up, as you straighten those arms, take the feet to the other side. Tuck the pelvis under, round the back. Stay in that beautiful shell shape. And then bring your hands, your shoulders over that one hand. You have to come all the way forwards to be able to free up the leg. Lift the knees, squeeze your feet together, reach up towards the ceiling. You can open out a little bit beyond 180 and then stretch that arm forwards. But imagine you've got your shoulders stuck. It won't actually come around with you until your hand is practically touching the floor. Then you're bringing the knee in, you're unravelling. Keep the feet where they are, stretching back into the centre. And let's take one more of those each side, especially if you've not done that before. It's quite a complicated move. Tuck the pelvis under, go back. Unravel your spine, tuck those elbows in. As you straighten the legs, take the feet away to the other side. Round the back by tucking the pelvis under. Maybe a nice breath out here. Pitch forwards, get the shoulder above that hand and lift the knee and the arm. Should feel really nice. Open up the chest as much as you can and then stretch the arm forwards. Try and keep that shoulder still for as long as possible, and then when you have to, let it unravel. Bring the knees together, stay tucked under in that pelvis to the back and then into the centre. Last one. Push the shins in round the back and shoulders over your hands. Tuck the elbows in and straightening. This time take your feet to the other side. Tuck the pelvis under again. Feel that wonderful stretch, primarily down one side more than the other. Get the shoulder over the hand. Look at it. Beautiful straight line there. And then lift. Lift, 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 lift. You could open out a little bit more if you wanted to. And then stretch the arm forwards. Leave that knee lifted for as long as possible. And then gradually unravel the spine. Keep the feet where they are. Stretching back for the last time. And into the centre. Well done. Great job. We are going to take a seated C curve. So again, think about the shape that you're making. So hands underneath the knees. So we're going from a neutral spine, and think about really sitting up on your, right up on your sit bones. From a neutral spine, with the hands underneath the backs of the knees, we're taking that pelvic tilt again. We're making a C curve with the spine. So just rocking back, rounding, scooping everything out. Stay in that C curve, roll forwards, round forwards, until the shoulders are over the hips, and then sit really nice and tall. From here, lift up even more, try and lift the chest, try and fold over your bra strap line at the back, lift the face up towards the ceiling. And then what I'd like to see, what I'll be looking for in class, is to come through a neutral position. So I can see the contrast between that little R, which is there, and your neutral spine, a bit like a double S shape, and then we're taking the C curve. So curl under, round the back, go past your sit bones. You want to come to the point where you've just got your toes still touching the floor, but you're really comfortable. Stay rounded, shoulders above the hips, come through your neutral, almost pause there again. Think about this top back corner of your head lifting up to the ceiling, and then try and keep the pelvis in neutral. Lift the chest, look up to the ceiling. Through your neutral, one more. We're rounding the back, scooping back, holding there. No weight on those feet. I'm really comfortable. Elbows are lifted, so it's, you're rolling like a ball position. Round forwards, come up through neutral, sitting right up on those sit bones. Actively try and keep your pelvis still here. Don't allow the hips to go back. If you allow the hips to go back here, it becomes an L. We don't want an L. We want a little R. If I could roll my R's for you, I would, but I can't, so I won't even attempt that. Coming back through neutral, round, scoop the tummy out nicely, and then hold this position. Hopefully you're nice and comfortable. Yeah, if you're not, maybe sit on a little cushion or a bit of a cushion or a rolled up towel or something here. Staying here if you can, feet and knees together, elbows lifted, whole spine curved. Straightening one leg, keeping those knees together, and straightening the other leg, straightening, easy for me to say, alternating. So this shouldn't be a problem, even if you've got rubbish hamstring length, because we've tilted that pelvis. So do some singles, fully straightening the leg, keeping those knees squeezed together, and then maybe some doubles. Staying scooped in that tummy. There's no change in my balance. I'm perfectly balanced. I actually feel quite comfortable here. Straighten those legs, holding it if you can. Grand finale. Take the arms away, palms are up to the ceiling. Maybe just lift the chest a little bit. Well done. And drop those feet down and sitting up. Good. So that might have been a little bit grippy in the hip flexors. We're going to take some bridges. So come down onto your back. So open up the hip flexors. Round the spine all the way down. And find your base position. So feet and knees are hip width apart. Think about the natural curves of your spine. I would like you to just push your feet into the floor, the whole surface of your feet. So pushing both feet into the floor. And what you're going to think about, and what I want you to notice, is that when you push your feet down, your hips, your pelvis will unweight a little bit. So if you imagine you had a set of electrical scales underneath your pelvis, when you're completely relaxed, let's say there's a weight of 10. When I push my feet down, I've got a weight of 2. So I've released 8 whatevers as I'm pushing my feet down. And I haven't lifted up at all, I haven't activated any muscles, I've just pushed my feet into the floor to unweight. And it's that using the floor to lift up out of the floor almost. By pushing the feet down, I'm unweighting the pelvis. So from here, we're going to take a straight all the way up, bridge. So the idea of the bridge, the goal of the bridge, as soon as you lift those hips up, switch the buttocks on, we're buttock strengthening, and we're also trying to get that nice stretch at the front of the hips, which is where you might have been a little bit grippy after that last movement. Now normally I would say relax your buttocks and come straight back down. What I want you to do today is try and keep your buttocks switched on, but do come back down. So you're resisting the lowering phase. And then when you're at the bottom, when your bottom has hit the mat, do relax. And then push down through the feet, unweight the hips. As soon as you lift the hips up, switch the buttocks on, send those knees away, hips are really nice and high. And then come down as if you're resisting, as if someone's pushing you down, but you don't want to go down with your hips. And then relax at the bottom. 2 more of those. So push down through the feet, lift up with the hips. Really try and open out here. Check that the ribs at the front of your hips, check that the ribs at the front aren't flaring, so coming down, keep that muscle activation going all the way down. Last one, relax and then lift up, send the knees away, push the feet down into the floor. Finding I'm slipping a little bit with my socks. And then as you lower, so there's just, the only change really is a hinge at the hips to lower the hips down and then relax at the bottom. So sitting yourself up from there. If you don't like this next movement, so we're going to take a 4-point and a 3-point bridge. It's quite tough, it's quite strong on the arms and the shoulders. If you don't like it, maybe try it, or do try it please, but then come back to the bridges on the floor for us to practice those. So hands are out to the side, try not to let your shoulders round forwards here. We want the shoulders to be lifted, chest to be lifted, you want to be nice and broad across your collarbone. Again, maybe feet a tiny bit wider this time, knees in line with your feet. We're pushing down through the feet, we're lifting the hips up into a 4-point bridge. 2 hands, 2 feet, and then lifting all the way up, and then lowering. So hinging at the hips. As you're coming down again, try and keep that muscle activation going if you can. So the switching on hamstrings, switching on buttocks. It's really strong on the back line of the body, where you might not be actually very strong because we don't generally do these exercises enough. So this is our 4-point bridge. This is the easiest version. If you would like to try a different angle, take it slightly harder, fingertips facing forwards towards your body. Again, try and keep the chest open, and then we're lifting up and lowering. Lifting up and lowering. I tend to keep my eye line pretty much in the same place. You definitely don't want to drop your head back. Just work with whatever's comfortable with your body. So you're here. So an alternative to being on your hands is being on your fists. That might work for you. So thumbs are forwards. I would pretty much stay in this position. Good, so that's the 4-point. Let's take a 3-point. So I'm just going to take one hand behind me. Legs are pretty much staying in the same position. The other hand is going to reach up towards the ceiling as I drive the hips up. So we've just got that nice openness across the chest now. As I drop my hips down, I'm just bringing that elbow to touch my ribs and then reaching up, looking up to the ceiling. Again, there's this sense of lifting out of the floor with that supporting arm. So maybe 3 or 4 of these. So this is going straight up. If you want to add a little bit more to this, go straight up, keep your arm bent actually, follow your thumb, lift your elbow up towards the ceiling. So now there's a bit more rotation and look towards that back hand and that back corner and then coming down. So much more rotation all the way behind you and drop down. So as I said, very strong on the shoulders and the wrists and everything. And this strength work is what we need sometimes, but just do a couple. If anything's hurting, and by all means just go down to the floor if you realise it's not for you. So I've put my other hand behind. It's not really in the middle, it's pretty much where it would be when I've got both hands. So reaching up to the ceiling, driving those hips up, lifting up. Try and touch the ceiling, try and lift out of the floor with the hand that's touching the floor, all the way up. 3 or 4 if you can, straight arm up, and then we're going up and over, follow your thumb, let your head go, look to that back corner. Actually feels really nice. All the way, up and over. Lifting up. I'm going to take one more. Great job. Ooh, quite exhausting, that one. Brilliant. Okay, we're staying sitting up. And this is a nice bit of rotation around the spine, but also some hip stretching and mobilising, which is again quite nice. We're coming back to this position where we're leaning back on our hands, but again, try not to be collapsed here. Try and lift up. Feet and knees really wide, and we're going to just start by dropping the knees from side to side. Whoop, there's my first rhyme. So I actually haven't got my feet wide enough, because when I'm going to the side, to the floor, this knee's, top knee is touching my foot. I want the knee to go to the floor if you can. So actually my feet are as wide as the yoga mat. And then to the other side, and there, to the side. Don't worry if your knees don't go anywhere near the floor. And then if you can, so just go with what you can. You might want to just rest that knee on top of that foot. That's absolutely fine. So when you take your legs to one side, sit yourself up. Take the weight into the hands behind you to roll to the other side. And here. So mobilising the hips, start to play around a little bit with taking your weight forwards, but not on an angle, so not to the side or the other side, really in the middle, but also try and keep, and you might be able to see it a bit more this way, not really, try and keep your spine in a neutral, so you're hinging from the hip as opposed to being here. And then if you can, start to not rely so much on leaning back. Just fingertips as you lift. And I've realised I'm working my way down my mat. This is the new Pilates walk. Good, we're going to add on a little bit more here. It might be for you, it might not. I'm going to shuffle back a little bit. So over to the side and then pushing up so that you're on your knee, you're driving your hips forwards and then rolling back down again. Over to the other side. Pushing up, switching the buttocks on, pushing the hips towards your new front, which is sort of on a bit of a diagonal. Rolling back down. One more each side. This should hopefully feel quite nice. Brilliant. Okay, coming back to face, I'm going to face forwards. If you can, in your screen where you're watching me, just mirror me. So I'm not going to talk rights and lefts. I'm just want you to mirror me. So basically, have the opposite leg as if you're looking in the mirror in front, and the one down the side is there. We're going to hang on to the leg that's down the side. Just hanging on to the ankle or the shin. The other arm is going to be out to the side at shoulder height. And all we're going to do is take a nice waft with the arm, crossing it over and then opening it out. Crossing it over and opening out. Ideally, in this position, your both sit bones are equally weighted. But you might find that one is slightly higher than the other. For me it is. The idea here is to just rotate the spine around. So let's add some breathing to this. So breathing out as you stretch across, breathing in as you open. You might even want to move that hand to help you. I've just put it on my knee actually to help me rotate round a little bit more. Breath out and breath in. As you warm up in this movement, as you get more rotation in the spine, it should get a little bit easier, should get a little bit freer. Great. The arm that you were waffling, take it down to the side and quite to the side of your body, in between your knee and your hip, and lean over a little bit. So you've got this diagonal line in your torso. Take the other arm out to up to the ceiling, so you've now got a diagonal line across there. And then we're going to thread the needle through. So bend this arm in, rotating around. Try and reach to the floor way past where you can actually touch, and then open the arm out. I encourage you to open this top arm out quite a bit, but watch that this shoulder, that supporting shoulder, doesn't pitch forwards. Open out, just keeping that nice and broad across your chest. And then attach your breathing to it once you've worked out how it is. Breath in as you open out. Breath out as you thread through. Breath in and breath out. Breath in, breath out. So the last one is more of a stretch. You're going to come down onto the elbow. So the elbow is pretty much where your hand was. Legs are in the same shape. You've still got this arm here. You're going to take the arm that's spare, reach it round so you're making like a curve. And we're going to, this whole thing is called the croissant. That's what my Pilates teacher calls it. So we call it the croissant. So we're reaching this arm round in a semicircle, and I'm looking towards that back corner where my rollers are. And then I'm going to slide the opposite knee, the back knee and the foot round. And it's like I'm trying to touch the foot to the hand behind me, creating a crescent shape, if you could see it from above. From this hand to this foot at the back. Holding that there and just breathing. And then just add a little bit of rotation by lifting that top elbow and shoulder, and then roll down again. So 3 different, very different types of rotation there, but all should feel quite nice, and all just getting into the corners of your spine and your muscles and the tissue. And then we're coming up and changing legs over. So the other leg in front. So just noticing for yourself, this position might feel quite uncomfortable on this side, it might be okay. Hanging on to the ankle or the lower leg, arm is out to the side. We're just warming up to start with, by just sweeping the arm across and opening out. Trying to keep the hips fairly still, but it's not the end of the world if your hips move around a little bit. The main goal here is to rotate around your upright spine. So try and notice if you're leaning or not. Let's add the breath. So breath out and breath in. Maybe changing the position of that hand at the side. That really helps me actually if I push against that knee to go a little bit broader. Maybe pushing against the foot. So this side is a bit more restricted. Lifting out. Great, let's take that hand to the floor and lean over. So you've got this straight line, pubic bone to your nose. Lift the arm, other arm up to the ceiling. So you've got this nice diagonal across your chest, and then thread the needle through. Feel that lovely stretch across your shoulder blades. Breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, couple more. So I can really feel the stretch across my shoulder blades on the same side that I'm rotating under, the same side that's threading the needle. Watch that shoulder doesn't fall forwards. I know mine is a little bit. Fabulous. Down onto that elbow, creating your crescent shape. So the arm is parallel with your shoulder. Curve it round. Look to the corner behind you. Then slide the thigh back. Should be a wicked stretch at the front of your hip. So we're stretching those hip flexors again. Keep the foot tucked in, so keep the leg really bent. Imagine you're trying to touch foot to hand. Holding it there and breathing. And then just lifting, elbow, shoulder, and then returning to looking back into the corner. Lots of lovely stretching going on, mobilising going on, all around the ribs and the thoracic spine, which is so what we need. Brilliant. And sitting yourselves up. Great job. We are coming down onto our backs for some abdominals. Let's take a C curve to get all the way down there. So take a roll down, hands underneath the backs of the knees. Really round that spine, try and control all the way down. We're going to be straightening and bending the legs in again. So just make sure you're not going to go, your heels aren't going to go past the end of your yoga mat if you've got one. But with that in mind, we're going to look at the scales analogy again. So in your base position, elbows on the floor, hands across your hips. We are going to think about unweighting the feet. So this time the feet are on the scales. When they're relaxed, they're making an amount of 10. I'm not sure what I'm saying there. And then I want you to just unweight them so that they become 2. And I want you to notice where or what happens in your body when you change the weight of your feet from a 10 to a 2. Hopefully you're feeling a nice switching on in your lower abdominal wall. Your pelvis becomes heavier. Maybe it's taken those extra 8 things away from the feet, I don't know. And that's what we need, this switching on and that engaging of the lower abdominal wall. We need that because we're going to slide one leg away along the floor and bring it back in again. And then we're going to swap to the other side. You're feeling that there's absolutely no change in your lower abdominal wall. There's no change in the shape of your lower back. There's no rocking and rolling with the hips because I've switched on, I've secured this area, if you like. And then what happens is the leg slides away along the floor, and when you bring it back, it's got the same amount of weight because you're controlling it from here. It's not that your leg goes out and then when you bring it back, you ruck the mat up. You're going to have to sit up and replace that now. Or it's also not, which some of my people were doing this morning in class, you're not lifting it off the floor either. In fact, try lifting it off and notice how much hard work that is, as in how many extra muscles you use, specifically in your legs. So let's keep this movement going, sliding one leg out along the floor and bringing it back in again. Add to it at the same time a knee fold. So one leg is sliding, the other leg is knee folding. They're returning at the same time with control. It's all about the timing. They get to their end position at the same time. As that leg straightens, the long leg on the floor straightens, the other leg hits the perfect position, knee directly above the hip. You're bending the leg that's on the floor, you're lowering the leg that's in the air, they get back to the base position at the same time. This lower abdomen is switched on the whole time. No change at all. So try and think about doing an equal amount both sides, not the end of the world if you don't. Let's add on. Hands are at the back of the head. Keep the legs still for the moment. Hands at the back of the head, interlacing your fingers, elbows are forwards. Give yourself a hug around your armpits. Open up those shoulder blades behind you. Make sure your head is nice and heavy. And then we're coming up for our abdominal curls. Only abdominal curls. The head is heavy in the hands. The arms are doing the work of lifting the head up, supporting the head actually. You're folding at the rib cage. There's absolutely no change in that lower abdominal wall. And I'm switched on also in the lower abdominal wall. Just a few of those. Watch that you're not lifting your head out of your hands before you come up. If your neck is starting to hurt, if your neck ever hurts when you've got your hands in this position, then you're not doing it right. You must be lifting your head out of your hands. This position is designed to absolutely help you keep your head relaxed, your neck relaxed. You're not using your neck muscles at all. You're absolutely using your abdominal wall. Okay, we're adding on knee fold, leg slide, abdominal curl. Hit the top position at the same time, lower down to your base position at the same time. Swap sides, lifting up and lowering, lifting up. You should already be feeling some work in your abdominals. Be accurate with these positions. Take your time. I'm not going too fast. The problem sometimes is that we bend the knee in too far and we try and come up too high, or we pull on the neck. So basically changing the shape of our whole spine. Keep the spine in neutral, apart from that upper body, obviously. Be accurate with where you're placing your legs and your upper body. Okay, adding on to this. Knee fold, leg slide, abdominal curl, extend the leg. Doesn't have to be 90 degrees, it can be 45 degrees, I really don't mind. I want to see 2 straight legs. And then bending everything in, lowering the upper body to come back to the start all at the same time. There's a lot going on here. Knee fold, leg slide, leg extension, abdominal curl. Clear those shoulder blades, don't come up any higher, and low. Let's go for a few more of those. Knee fold, leg slide, extend, and lower. Woo, knee fold, leg slide, extend, abdominal curl. Beautiful pointed feet, beautiful straight legs, one more each side if you can. Pelvis totally stable. Upper abdominals working particularly hard. Great job. I'm going to do one more. And coming back down. Whew. Okay, we're taking one arm out to the side. So take the arm that's closest to the camera out to the side. Palm is up. We're going to do 5 on each side now. We're using the obliques, so we're going to stay on this one side. Your knee folding and leg sliding and abdominal curling with the other hand at the back of the head, and then extend that leg up towards the ceiling. From here, I'm just reaching across with this elbow going on that 45-degree angle between the arm and the leg and the torso, lifting up and then lowering everything. Same side. Knee fold, leg slide, leg extension. So the leg that's up is the same as the arm that's on the floor. And then there's an oblique twist across to the corner and lower. 3 more of those if you can. 5 in total. Knee fold, leg slide, extend, roll over the shoulder but don't collapse. Lift, lengthen towards the corner. 2 more. Knee fold, leg slide, extend and reach and lower. Last one on this side. Great job. Change to the other side because I've run out of space in my room. So ideally, I'm going to go over a little bit. The arm that's on the floor is out at a right angle. The hand is at the back of the head. We're coming up, knee fold, leg slide, leg extension and a roll. And draw everything back to the start. I still haven't got it through. And knee fold, leg slide, leg extension and oblique twist. So the pelvis is staying really stable. You're rotating around the waist. 2 more. Have that sensation, I talked about this last week in class, of plaiting, like you're plaiting your obliques. All the muscles are crisscrossing over. Apply that tension. When you're plaiting someone's hair, you need to have tension. And lowering. Back to the first side. Grand finale, I promise. Last 5 of these. So the arm out to the side. Other hand at the back of the head for now. Knee fold, leg slide, leg extension. Release the hand at the back of the head. lift up to touch that top ankle if you can. If your leg's there, that's absolutely fine. Go to the outside of the leg with your fingertips, reach across. Ideally you're up here touching that ankle. Lower the arm behind you on the floor, lower the head down, lower the straight leg and lift up. Let's go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, nearly there, 3, 2, and 1, and all on the other side. I'm going to come back over a little bit, that's fine. Good, so knee fold, leg slide all the way, lifting up, extend that arm. Try and reach, definitely reach to the outside of the leg, try and reach up towards the ankle. The arm goes straight back, the leg goes straight down to the floor, and then we're lifting, but you've still got that rotation in the shoulders. 6, I think. 5, counting down this time, 4, 3, try and get as much twist as possible, 2, and 1. I'm going to do one more for luck. I think my counting was a bit dodgy on this side. Maybe we did 9. Oh, well done. Roll the head from side to side. So now your neck probably is hurting a little bit because there was no support on that last one. On the last 2, you only had half an arm or one arm for the support on the other side. Brilliant. Okay, we are going to come onto our, oh no, I think we've got time to do side line. We're going to line our sides in a beautiful straight line. Palm is up, hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked. Lifting both legs up to the height of the top hip and keeping the legs nice and parallel, and yeah, parallel and in steps together if you can. We're just going to open and close, open and close. So the underneath leg, be careful that the underneath leg works as harder or as much as the top leg. The top leg is fairly free, but the underneath leg, the good part is the bit you want to rely on is when you're lifting that inside thigh up to squeeze the other leg. Open, and then we're double, let's have a double tap. Open, tap, tap. Open, tap, tap. So focus on that underneath leg, lifting up. Really important work for the inside thighs, pelvic floor. Great, hold the legs up there. Turn the legs out in the hip socket. We were keeping pointed feet all the way through this exercise. Now let's go scissor forwards and backwards. Forwards and backwards. Not very far apart. So pretty much don't go past your yoga mat, and that's assuming you're in the middle of your yoga mat. The underneath leg is the harder one. Keep that top shoulder down, keep your waist lifted. And then let's just finish off here, if you can, trying to sort of flutter the legs. And this is really quite difficult. Flutter, really tiny movements, but keep the legs straight, backwards and forwards, turned out, so you're pushing your heels past each other. Woo. Well done. Bend your legs in. There's our lovely Z sit. Roll back, roll the legs over to the other side and slide down. All on the other side. Beautifully choreographed. Even though I do say so myself. Hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, waist is lifted. And then opening and closing. Open and close. Just noticing for yourself, does this side feel a little bit different? Maybe harder to balance. You could have done all of this work, or maybe not, with your arm by your side. I've just got a light fingertip touch on the floor. Let's add that double tap. Open and double tap. Try and create a resistance when you bring the legs in. Tap, tap. open, tap, tap. So in this position, your knees and the tops of your feet are facing forwards. When we turn out in a moment, let's do one more, tap, tap, keep the legs together. Now when you turn out in the hip socket, remember, knees are facing opposite walls. So the underneath knee is facing the floor-ish, the top knee is facing the ceiling-ish. Tops of your feet are going in the same direction. And then keep the legs turned out, keep them beautifully straight. Try and keep that underneath leg in the same position. Try not to go too far forwards with the legs. It's very easy to swing that top leg quite a bit. Get the legs, both legs to move equally. It doesn't need to be much further, much wider than the width, the short width of my yoga mat. Good, and then we're fluttering the feet. So we're not fluttering just the feet, we're fluttering the whole leg, and it's really quite difficult. It looks like I'm trying to do little circles, but they sort of turn into circles. I'm just trying to switch fingers, I'm doing that with my fingers, trying to switch my legs forwards and backwards quickly and keep it really small. Ends up being quite circular. And enough there. Coming into it on the walk and sitting yourselves up. Brilliant. We're going to lie on our tummies. So lie down on your tummies. Open up the legs to hip width apart. Just settle your hips a little bit. Pubic bone in contact with the mat. Draw the rib cage down so you're connected your rib cage to your hips. Let's have the arms by your side, palms are up, and allow your shoulders to round forwards. Lower the head so that just the tip of your nose is touching the floor. So the back of the neck is nice and long. Try not to rest your head on the floor, on your nose. Just let the shoulder, the fronts of the shoulders especially, round forwards. Notice whether both sides can touch the floor. Maybe not at the moment, but hopefully by the time we finish. Or just make them nice and even. You might have one shoulder that's a bit higher or lower than the other. All we're going to do is lift the shoulder tips up. So I often think of this as if when your shoulders are rounded and forwards and touching the floor, I call it the Quasimodo position, but it's like you've created an arc from shoulder to shoulder. When you lift the shoulders up, you're creating a straight line from shoulder to shoulder, and that straight line is parallel to the floor. Keep going with this movement. Reach your fingertips down towards your feet. That will help to stop lifting the elbows or using the backs of the arms as you do this movement. But essentially try and keep your arms quite heavy. So you might find you're bending your elbows, using your triceps are joining in to create the movement. So hopefully by now you're feeling some work around your shoulder blades, around the outside edge of your shoulder blades. And I want you to think about your shoulder blades being drawn together toward, not squeezed together, but it's like you're closing curtains. And you're closing the curtains into the middle, both sides, so each shoulder blade is a curtain. You're closing them in the middle is your spine. And it should be those muscles around the outside edge of your shoulder blades that you're thinking about and noticing. Mine is starting to quiver now because that's all I'm using. I'm trying to only use those muscles. I'm trying not to use anything else. Okay, so just adding a little bit more on here. Lifting the head, so lifting the shoulder tips, lifting the back of the head and neck up slightly. So my lower ribs are still on the contact with the floor, chin is tucked in. I'm going to lift my arms up, palms are up to the ceiling. I'm going to sweep the arms round. Palms go down when the arms are at the side. I'm bringing the arms above my head, middle finger touching, arms are in like a ballet position, nice and rounded. Turn the palms, swim the arms round and back, maybe As you get your arms back to your sides, lift your upper back a little bit more, collapse, do that again for me. So shoulder tips on their own, then lift back of head and neck, not too high, you just want to be sort of hovering off a little bit. Lift the arms, again not too high, sweep the arms round, palms are down when they're at the side. Gently curve the arms that are above your head, but keep those shoulders pulling down. Turn the palms, swim out through the movement, lift that top corner of your head, squeeze the arms in by your side, and relax down. Brilliant. Finishing off, up onto your elbows. Bo's having a bit of a shift around in his bed. Up onto your elbows, elbows underneath your shoulders. And then all I would like you to do first of all, hands just together, is just pull your belly button away from the floor. So if I relax completely and then I pull my belly button away from the floor, you can just see my lower back lifting up a little bit. So drawing the belly button tight towards the spine, switching on pelvic floor slightly, but have that sense of being really strong in your centre, and then relax. So drawing the belly button tight towards the spine, this time keep that tension there, and now just push down, lift up out of the floor on your elbows and your knees, and lift your hips up into your neutral spine, holding that there. Holding that there if you can. So we're just in an elbows and knees plank. Keep the shoulder blades sliding down. Keep the chin tucked in. No stress at the back of the neck. Holding it there, nice and tight in your centre. Relax all the way down to the floor. We're going to use that movement to come up onto all fours, maybe into a downward dog position for a stretch, and then reverse it. So now open up your, place your hands underneath your shoulders with your elbows lifted like you're a grasshopper position. And then again, push down through the floor, use that pressure in the floor, draw your belly button tight towards your spine, push down through the floor, and you should be able to just lift your whole body up, hopefully. Take the hips back towards the heels. Have a little stretch there maybe, that will feel quite nice. Bring your knees forward so they're underneath your hips. Feet and knees nice and wide. Curl your toes under. Lift your hips. Push your chest back through your arms. Feel that amazing stretch in your calves. Woo. And then bring the shoulders over your hands. Lower your knees. Walk your hands forwards this time. Fingertips facing forwards. As you take your hands forward, your hips are going to come forwards. Tighten everything in your centre, lower yourself down as one unit. And then let's repeat that. We're going to come up into the downward dog one more time. Maybe take some bear walks forwards and back. So belly button to spine, switch on in your centre. Push down through the floor with those hands and those arms. That should lift your body up beautifully. Send your hips back a little bit. Let's go all the way back. Maybe a little sway from side to side. You might just want to finish off here. Absolutely fine. Come forwards, up and over. Bring your knees forwards. Curl your toes under. Lift your hips up. Push that chest back through your arms. Walk your feet in towards each other by lifting your heel, bending the leg, and then pushing the heel down and straightening the leg. That's your sort of warm up for your bear walks. And then we're going one hand and the opposite foot. Straight leg if you can, but it doesn't have to be. One hand, the opposite foot. You can bend the knee in and then reverse it. So when I'm going backwards, I tend to lead with my toe, then take the hand. Take your time, though, although we call this bear walks, imagine you're an elephant and you're just going really slowly. You've got all the time in the world, but you're this big, powerful animal. Tune into your inner animal with that last movement, just so that it's not clunky. Practice those. It's a really, really great thing to do. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for your support, all of my lovely live at 5 on a Monday people, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.